Well, good evening, everyone. I will call this meeting to order at 6:32 p.m. by recognizing the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the municipality of Brighton is located on the Mississauga Anishinaabeg territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga. Council of the Municipality of Brighton respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I will also advise that due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be held using various formats. Members of council and some municipal staff are present in chambers. Other staff members, the presenters, and members of the public engaging at any point in the meeting are joining us via electronic conference technology, and the public is invited to join us by viewing this meeting live on the Municipality of Brighton YouTube channel. So we'll begin with a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson. The council amend the September 2021 council agenda to add staff report regarding proposed Indigenous heritage sidewalk location to section 9.6 for discussion. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that council approve the September 2021 council agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Members of council, please make any declarations of pecuniary interest that you may have, and if you do, please note the general nature thereof. And there are none noted. Are there any announcements this evening? Councillor Bateman.
One announcement, one update. Saturday, I attended the grand opening of the Belleville Police Headquarters on your behalf and council's. It's a beautiful facility. If you have the chance to tour it, I would contact them or do something involuntarily, and they'll give you a free tour, I guess. But it's a beautiful facility. It's part new, and I believe it used to be their public utilities building that they repurposed. Yeah, and the update is the Chicken Farmers of Ontario donation. It has come in. I was talking to Councillor Rowley and we contacted one of the workers down there. I guess it's a good problem to have. We just don't have the freezer space right now. So they're going to hold it at the warehouse in Coburg, and they have set some aside for the municipality. And it literally was 900 pounds of fresh chicken. So
nice.
It's set aside for Brighton.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And our congratulations again to Mrs. Bateman. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to remind yourself and council and anyone else who is available on Thursday evening at 6 p.m. to support, cheer on, participate in our Walk a Mile in Our Shoes event, which will take place at Memorial Park. Gentlemen, don't forget your high heels.
Thank you for that. Any other announcements? Councillor LeBlanc.
I would like to make an announcement on one of our local businesses. This is my passport for showing that we have two shots. They will reduce them and they will laminate them in our own in Brighton, right on Main Street. And they've had probably 300 customers so far. So I just thought that people should know we can do it locally.
That's nice. And that's at Barrett's Office Pro. Is that correct, Councillor?
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Go ahead.
Just so it doesn't confuse the public, it's the vaccination receipt. Passports aren't out yet.
Right. Bingo. Very well. Thank you for that. Any other announcements? I had the opportunity to golf in the Bridge Hospice Golf Tournament on the weekend. It's a worthy cause, and I was happy to be able to do it with my wife and two daughters. My stepdad and my children's grandfather spent his last couple of days at Bridge Hospice. So we're very happy to be able to support the Bridge Hospice. They do incredibly good work, especially over the pandemic when they've had no volunteers. So it's been entirely the PSWs doing all of the work. So I imagine they're, like many others in the healthcare industry, getting exhausted as well. Last chance before we move on. Move into adoption of the minutes. I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council adopt the September 7th, 2021 council meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. The motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, the council adopt the September 13th planning meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. We have no statutory public meeting this evening. That takes us into delegations and presentations. Council will hear 3 presentations this evening. Presenters are provided with 15 minutes to complete their presentations. It is noted that language, content, and conduct must remain respectful at all times. Council will be provided with an opportunity to ask questions of clarification from the presenters based on the information that they have presented. Council is reminded that this is not an opportunity to engage in debate with the presenter nor advance a public policy position. Presenters are reminded that council does not make decisions during the delegation portion of the meeting. And with that, we'll go into our first presentation from Adam McCue, Manager of Environmental and Technical Services, County of Northumberland, with regard to the County Landfill EA process. Mr. McCue? You're muted, Adam.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
All right, let me see if I can do the screen share thing here.
We can see the presentation.
Perfect, you can see that now, the cover?
Okay. Yep.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor and members of Brighton Council for your indulgence this evening. I'm here to talk to you briefly about a bit of an update on the various programs that the county offers in the waste side of things, as well as provide some information on our long-term planning, specifically relating to an environmental assessment that the county will be undertaking to determine how we manage our residual waste, the garbage that has no opportunity for recycling or composting at present time, how we're going to manage that once the Brighton landfill reaches its ultimate capacity. So with that, I'll jump into the presentation and give you a bit of an overview of where we're at now. So as many of you may know, back in 2014, the county did embark upon a long-term waste management master plan process. That plan was adopted by County Council in 2014. The overall objective is to achieve a 75% diversion of waste from our landfill. And since 2014, we have adopted or implemented a number of the recommendations within that plan. We implemented curbside leaf and yard waste collection throughout the entire county in 2015. We implemented a bulky waste diversion program at our community recycling centers in Bewley, Brighton, and Seymour. Clothing diversion came online in 2017. In 2019, we did a number of things. We started diverting styrofoam at our community recycling centers. We went to year-round household hazardous waste diversion at the sites. We implemented year-round acceptance of electronic waste at the sites at that point in time. And in late 2019, we also implemented our new green bin program and launched our 2-stream recycling program, curbside setup program. This here is just a photo of the organic waste transfer station that the county had to construct in order to be able to receive and ship out the food waste that we collect, that our contractor collects at curbside. So this is located at the Brighton landfill. It's about 5,000 square feet in size. And the collection trucks back into this large door here. They deposit the food waste onto the ground. It then gets loaded into roll-off containers that then get hauled out of these back doors here and sent to a processing facility to be composted in Belleville. We've done a number of upgrades to the community recycling center, specifically at Bewley and Brighton. So there's just a couple of photos here I wanted to share with you, some of the upgrades that we've made over the last couple of years. So this obviously is the organic waste transfer station building that we constructed at the Brighton landfill. To orient yourself, this is County Road 26. These are the waste scales as you come into the community recycling center. Then off to the right here, I'll show you a second photo. This kind of shows some of the improvements we've made at the site. So we expanded the area at the site where we can receive various wastes. This is our new household hazardous waste building. So that enables us to collect household hazardous waste year round. as opposed to just the 56 event days that we were operating prior to 2019. So residents come in, they go up top here, what we call our sawtooth area. We put sidewalks and railing systems in here to improve the safety of our residents when they come to our sites. They dump their garbage off, their drywall, scrap metal here, tires go into this area, and then they can drop off styrofoam, bulky plastics, and electronic waste, and then their regular blue box recyclables can go in here, and then their hazardous waste, and then they're on their way out the site again. We did something similar at Bewdley. We expanded the area up top where the garbage gets put into the dumpsters just to enable vehicles to back in and also other vehicles to get around so they can leave the site. Again, same fashion here where we put in raised sidewalks and railings. We also constructed a new hazardous waste building here and then have all the various diversion opportunities similar to what I've shown for Brighton as well. So a lot of new diversion opportunities at these locations compared to 2014 when we were starting our waste diversion journey. So specific to curbside, one of the big changes that we made that obviously most residents within the county felt was our transition to the two-stream recycling program from what was a single-stream bag recycling program. In phase one that started in the summer of 2019, we delivered all the blue and the gray boxes to all the residents within Northumberland County. And we also provided messaging about what goes in what bin and how to sort it. There were pamphlets provided. Actually, if you look at the outside of the boxes that we've given, it actually shows you the majority of the various materials and what's to go into each bin. We did have our contractor continuing to collect both the blue and the gray box materials in one compartment of the collection vehicle. So it was still being collected in a single stream, but just having those materials come in loose to our recycling plant versus in bags diverted over 2 million single-use plastic bags and also made it much easier for us to process that material at our MRF in Grafton. In December of 2020, when our new collection contract started and we had new collection vehicles, the new contractor has collection vehicles that are dedicated to collecting the recyclables in two streams. So the trucks do have a divider down the middle of the box. So the gray box, the paper materials all go into one side of the truck, and all of the containers material that are in the blue box go into the other side of the truck. And then in mid-January of this year, we started enforcing and rejecting unsorted loads. So we had been, advertising and educating about how to sort it properly, but ultimately we did have to start doing some enforcing and leaving rejection stickers on blue and gray boxes in mid-January. Over the course of about a month, we did that just so that people knew if they're putting a Kleenex in the gray box, that's not acceptable. That should go in your green bin. Or if you're putting in plastic wrap loosely, that should be going in your bag of bags. So we did a lot of that enforcement, and now most people are compliant and understand how to do that, which is great. And we're seeing it at the MRF. We're seeing it in the quality. Prior to going to the two-stream recycling program, we saw that about 29% of what came into our recycling plant was going to landfill, meaning only 79% or 71% was going to processors to be recycled. Now we find that 88% of what comes into our plant is being sent out to be recycled, and only 12% is going to landfill. And we envision that that's going to improve further as residents become more familiar. We get everybody on board and doing the right thing, and we're hoping to see that number drop below 10% in the coming years. This table here just kind of is a bit of a representation of the changes that we've seen in the various waste streams that we manage and the divertible streams that we manage. I've used 2014 as a base year because that was the year prior to us implementing any sort of changes as part of the long-term waste management master plan. So what you'll see here is that the amount of garbage collected went up by about 5%, and that would seem normal because of population growth. However, we did anticipate this number in a non-COVID year likely would have been significantly less, because in 2014, that 8,100 tons also included the food waste that is now being collected separately in 2020. So the 8,500 tons really should have been about 2,400 tons less. However, in 2020, we had a lot of people who were told to stay home, except for essential travel and work. So they were working from home. They were generating waste that they normally would have generated at their office or other locations, but they were also busying themselves. So if you had that junk drawer that you hadn't cleaned out in 3 years, you took that opportunity to clean that out or clean out your basement or your attic or whatnot. So we saw a lot more waste at curbside than normally would have happened, I think, in a non-COVID year. And we're still seeing some of that additional waste this year, as a lot of people still are working from home and generating waste that otherwise would have been generated likely in their work area. So we saw residential drop off at our locations drop down a bit again because of COVID. There was likely less waste being generated in larger projects, and people were taking more so advantage of curbside versus coming out to our sites, because we had asked people to kind of stay away from the sites and only make use if it was absolutely necessary in 2020. We did see a reduction in the amount of residual waste, the stuff that went to landfill in 2020 compared to 2014. Again, because of some of the improvements in the quality of the material coming into the MRF. So overall, the amount of garbage that we managed, the stuff that went to landfill, went down by about 1% as compared to 2014, even though we had population growth in there. We did see that recycling dropped a little bit, about 3%. And a lot of that has to do more so, not people not recycling, but we've seen a lot of lightweighting of packaging between 2014 and 20, where we're still getting just as many water bottles or aluminum cans, but the aluminum cans are now lighter. They're made with less aluminum, and same with the plastic water bottles. Another significant change was that between 2014 and 2020, there was one local newspaper, free locally delivered newspaper, that went out of business, no longer existed. So there was a lot of tonnage that people would normally put in their gray box that wasn't coming to our recycling plant anymore. So there was just less recyclables available. There was a significant increase in leaf and yard waste, again, because we implemented a curbside program in 2015. The food waste was a brand new program, so we captured almost 2,400 tons in the first year of that program. Household hazardous waste went to year round. So we saw an increase because of the increased accessibility. The increase in tonnage happened as well. Scrap metal and drywall both dropped, not a whole bunch, but enough. And again, I think this was more sort of due with being a COVID year. There wasn't as much renovations and things happening that we normally would have saw that would have generated these types of materials at our facilities. Again, with year-round access to electronic waste disposal, we saw that number jump dramatically. Tires went up, and that sometimes is just a timing. Sometimes we may send 2 large loads of materials out versus 1 load, so it's more of a timing issue. It's not that there was a lot more tires generated one year than the other. These are all new. These last 3, bulky plastics, clothing, and styrofoam, they're all new diversion programs that we implemented in 2019. And even the last one, while 6 tons doesn't look like a lot, we only get about 150 kilograms or 0.15 tons on a truck. When we send this material out, we contract a company that has a large moving van, like a 5-ton truck, and because of that equated to about 40 moving trucks worth of styrofoam, so 40 trucks worth of capacity that was saved in our landfill from that diversion of styrofoam. So overall, what we saw was our garbage that we managed was about the same, and it should have been down a bit because of COVID, but we saw significant strides in the amount of material that we diverted from landfill, up by about 47%. So overall, the amount of waste that we managed was up about 16%, and a lot of that came from additional diversion opportunities that we had at our CRCs. So as it stands now, we're sitting close to 50% diversion. I think by the end of this year, we'll probably be closer to 55% as the green bin and the recycle right programs mature. Obviously, our objective is to get to 75% diversion. We're not there yet. In order to get there, we're going to have to implement some additional diversion programs, things for like mattress diversion, construction materials, wood waste, asphalt shingles, possibly porcelain diversion for like toilets, things like that. But we may also have to look at mandatory use of diversion programs and enforcement. So when I say mandatory use of diversion programs, it means that when you come into one of our CRCs, we may inspect your load and say, if you're not willing to segregate all your materials into the various bins, then there will be a higher tipping fee charged to you for not diverting or sorting your materials properly. And we may also have to look at in the future some sort of a program where we enforce it at curbside. So right now it's voluntary that you use the recycling and the green bin program. But if we want to get to 75% diversion, and we may have to look at something like a clear bag program where residents are allowed to put as many bags out as they need to. However, in those clear bags of garbage, there should be no food waste and there should be no recyclables. And if there are food waste or recyclables, then those materials that bag of garbage would get rejected. So that's not something that is set in stone at this point in time, but it is something that we will be considering as we go through another iteration and evolution of our long-term waste management master plan. So with respect to the disposal of the waste that we can't divert right now from landfill, as most of you are very likely aware, we do only have one active landfill in Northumberland County. It is the Brighton landfill, and it accepts all of the residual waste, the waste that we can't divert from within Northumberland County. In 2015, we did receive approval through an environmental assessment process to remediate and expand the Brighton landfill. And that project consisted of putting engineered cells at the Brighton landfill, installing plastic liners and leachate collection systems at the site, and then digging up all of the historic waste that had been placed at that landfill since 1975 into these new lined sections. And we did require an expansion of about 500,000 cubic meters of capacity in order to do this, because we needed some place to put the waste that we were digging up out of the ground. So we had to build a new cell to start accepting some of this waste. And then it was a bit of a shell game as we moved around the site and built more cells and took some of this historic waste and dug it up and put it in a new line cell. So ultimately, we did, again, an expansion to the landfill as a result of doing this remediation and fully lining the site. When we did the EA process, when we started that back in 2010, we anticipated that the expansion would get us capacity till around the year 2024. However, we now see that the capacity of the Brighton landfill will reach probably 2030, 31, or maybe even a little beyond. And there's a number of reasons for that. One is we were basing the estimation of what we needed for capacity on 2010 numbers. One, when we were doing the excavation, we actually found less waste than we anticipated. In some locations, the waste wasn't buried as deep as we had thought, so we didn't have as much historic waste to eat up some of that capacity. But we've also, as I mentioned, we've implemented a lot of new programs that are diverting a lot of waste from the landfill that weren't in place in 2010. So we're putting less waste into the landfill, so that capacity is going to last longer because of the diversion programs. But also, there is a new waste transfer station that was built in Northumberland County after 2010 that now receives some commercial waste that used to go to the Brighton landfill, is now being exported out of the county and going to landfills elsewhere. So that's not eating up our capacity as well. So that's why that capacity has grown by at least 6, if not 7 or more years. So in the long-term waste management master plan, there was one recommendation which we've not yet implemented, and that is to undertake an environmental assessment to figure out how we manage that fraction of our garbage that we can't currently divert or compost. And as we go through that process, there'll likely be 3 options that we would look at considering. Those options would be looking at expanding an existing landfill that the county has, developing a new landfill somewhere within the county, or looking at exporting our waste to another landfill in Ontario or an alternative waste disposal facility. And when I say alternative waste disposal facility, I mean like an energy from waste facility or incinerator or a digester facility that would break down all the organic waste in black bag garbage. Now, the EA process itself is a very in-depth process. It's basically used to determine what a preferred solution would be to any given problem. We have to go through an individual environmental assessment in this case, because this is a very large and complex project that can have numerous impacts on the environment, and it requires approval from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. It is a very in-depth process. It requires a number of environmental studies to be conducted to determine the potential impacts and outcomes that each one of the various alternatives that we look at would have on the environment, from surface water to groundwater to air to social and economical impacts, land use and heritage. So there are quite a few studies that have to be done as part of the EA to look at all the alternatives and see which one would have the least impact or be the most beneficial. Because this would be an individual environmental assessment, the very first step in the EA process would be actually developing a terms of reference. And that's done in consultation with our member municipalities and the public. And the terms of reference has to be approved by the Ministry of the Environment before you can even proceed with the EA itself. Terms of reference spells out how the EA is prepared. It proposes all the studies that would be undertaken. It provides a description and a rationale for the project, as well as a description of the various alternatives that are going to be reviewed. And it also provides a description of the existing environment and the potential effects that the various projects could cause. And it also details a consultation plan. So you have to have a very detailed consultation plan that the ministry approves as part of this process as well. And that all gets approved as part of the terms of reference. Once the terms of reference is done, which is about a 1-year process, The ministry approves that. And then you start to undertake those detailed studies and analysis on all the various options that I talked about, where you start looking at what would the impact be to surface water of a new landfill versus an expansion of a landfill versus shipping your waste somewhere else. So you look at all those various studies and do those. And as you're going through this process, there are multiple opportunities to engage the public and other stakeholders. And the ministry really views the feedback critical to this process. So there's a lot of involvement from the public, from First Nations, from member municipalities. And then ultimately, once you come up with the preferred solution, which could typically take 3 to 5 years to do, then you're still looking at, depending on what the preferred solution is, it may be another year to 2 to do a detailed design and get approvals for that preferred alternative. If it were to be expand the landfill, then you would have to do the detailed design for that expansion of a landfill and get the ministry to approve the detailed designs as well. So the EA just gives you the conceptual idea as to what the preferred alternative is, and you still have to do the detailed design for that. So with that, I would be happy to take any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Mr. McCue. We appreciate you coming and giving us that overview of landfill and the community, waste and recycling in general, and of course, more specifically, the EA process as we move forward. So members of council, any questions of clarification? Councillor LeBlanc.
I have one question, but I also have a compliment. I've been to your landfill a number of times. I've met you there a number of times, and you got exceptional staff working there, and it's probably one of the best run and managed landfills that I've been in. I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's high praise indeed, Mr. McCue.
My question is, when you went into the contract, Councillor Bateman and I were at the county when the contract was bid and you were speaking. And I remember your comment that in the contract with Miller that they were going to have smaller vehicles and they were going to collect, you know where I'm going. So they were going to collect all the garbage or the waste from unassumed roads that people have to bring it to the front of the streets and everywhere. When is that going to happen? If it is in different municipalities, like in Crammy, some of it's taking place now, but it hasn't reached Brighton yet. So you know when it's going to reach Brighton?
Yes, so I can definitely comment on that. So when we put out the contract, we basically, prior to this contract, we had a number of roads within the county that were seasonal, private, and some of them were municipal roadways that only received a road collection from roadside collection on a weekly basis in the summertime. In the wintertime, they were required to bring their waste out to the intersection of the nearest roadway. But we said through this contract that we wanted the contractor to provide year-round collection to those roadways that we were already providing a seasonal collection to. Separate from that, we know there are a number of other private roadways or municipal roadways that currently don't receive collection, and instead the residents place their waste out at a common set-out location nearest the municipal road that it intersects. We've asked our contractor to look at all those roads, and in the near future, we'll be meeting with them this fall to talk about the opportunities for uploading some of those roads. So in Brighton, I know that we have already uploaded one road. Popham Lane was brought to our attention, and we were able to work with our contractor to get that road uploaded. And there was another road in Hamilton Township we've uploaded. But there are other ones that we're trying to look at now as well to see, can a larger collection vehicle get down there? And if not, can we have our contractor go down there with smaller trucks to collect those materials year round? The challenge we have right now is with it being a new contract, they're trying to understand the necessities of getting the existing contract done. They've been having some challenges with staffing as well, as I think most businesses have. So they were hesitant to commit to doing any additional roadways that they weren't contractually obligated to do until they had a good 6-8 months of operations and understood what the winter and the summer collection aspects may look like on these. So they knew what it was they would need in order to be able to facilitate these additional roads. So it is something that we're working on. I don't have a specific date as to when we would look at doing these. It'll be a case-by-case basis. And for private roadways specifically, so not municipal roadways, but private roadways that we're not collecting from right now, we would also ask for an indemnification so that our contractor isn't liable if there is any sort of damage done to the roadways from them accessing these roads to do the collection.
So follow-up.
Follow. One road particular, just on Highway 2 here, is an assumed road. And we've already talked about that road. It's still not being collected.
Yes, so that is one road that was historically had a set out at I guess County Road 2, and it continues that way now. So we are working with our contractor to get that one to get a year-round access and have a collection down the roadway. The challenge we find is that their larger vehicle can't access that and safely turn around at this present time because there isn't a cul-de-sac large enough for their vehicle. So we'll likely have to look at having them provide that with a pickup truck or something to go down and get that material.
Thank you.
And you're meeting with the contractor this fall to work out those details?
Yes, we provided them with a list of all the known roadways, and that roadway that Councillor LeBlanc was speaking of is on that listing that we've asked them to investigate and report back on how they would provide the service.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
I'd like to thank you for the great service in my area too. So I've noticed a great improvement. So everybody seems pretty good at it. I know people listening tonight, residents might say, why don't you ask him what he knows about the costs? How are costs running? And I'm going to lead, this is going to lead to something. So are you involved in that? I know you're involved, but bottom line, are you involved in costs and decisions on where you're going, spending money, et cetera?
Yes, so ultimately decisions of costing get made by county council, but yes, as a manager in the waste division, I do put together a draft budget every year for council's consideration. So with respect to costs, I'm not sure if you're speaking about curbside collection with relation to bag tag cost. I can let you know that yes, our collection costs are about $5.4 million for our annual curbside collection. For the two-stream recycling, the organic or the food waste collection, the garbage collection, as well as our leaf and yard waste collection. We're anticipating generating revenue of about $3.675 million this year through bag tag sales. So the price of a bag tag or the revenue we generate from bag tags does not cover the entire cost of the curbside collection program, but it covers a good portion of it.
This is all part of this question. Do you see the cost rising over the next couple of years because of your efforts, or do you see opportunities for reduction of costs?
Well, for collection specifically, within our collection contract, we do have escalation clauses for the contractor that change the rate of the contract by cost of living for a multitude of items, excluding fuel. We also do a separate escalation factor based on the price of fuel change, because a lot of the contractor's cost is related to fuel. So we do have annual adjustments for fuel and for cost of living. So if cost of living goes up and fuel goes up, then the collection contract will go up in accordance with that. One thing that will likely be changing in our waste budget, there will be some significant savings, I guess, come 2024. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the province has announced that municipalities will no longer be legislated and responsible for providing blue box recycling programs between 2023 and 25. And the government of Ontario has let Northumberland County know that come 2024 is when our obligation will cease. And producers, the people who generate or sell into the province plastic or printed paper and packaging, will be responsible for the blue box program in its entirety, for the cost associated with the program, as well as for provision of collection and processing and capture and promotion of that program. So the county would no longer have to pay for the cost associated with collecting blue box recyclables or processing those recyclables at our material recovery facility or promoting for those. So there would be some significant savings as a result of the county no longer being obligated and offering a blue box recycling program.
So there could be an opportunity for at least holding the line and reduction of costs of a bag.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. The other thing was, I'm sorry, I'll let somebody else probably has another question. So thank you. That's what I wanted to find out, that we're not going to see another jumps in the next year, 2 years. Oh, the other thing was about increase in residents. A lot of building going on in all the areas that you manage, all the communities that you manage. That growth brings more cost to you, more landfill. Obviously, your schedule may get knocked right out of the water based unless you've already projected, done a good job at projecting that now. I don't know how you did that. And the other thing that could also have an effect on your costs. So, you know, more houses on the street, more intensity, more, you know, what's the word? More buildup within the urban area, that the cost could be reduced too. So you drive the truck down the road with more houses on it. So
yeah. So again, our collection contract has embedded into it an annual increase due to the number of additional units as well. So if 100 new units or collection points get added in a year, then the contractor the following year gets that increase in stops. So we pay our contractor a price per stop per month for all of the collections. So yes, those, but at the same time, if those individuals are using our garbage collection program, then they're purchasing bag tags. So again, they're at least partially offsetting that collection cost by participating in the garbage program and purchasing bag tags.
so promoting putting your garbage out every 2 weeks can save us money too. On the pickup charges, I'm saying.
Yes, but we would still be required to collect food waste on a weekly basis because of the odors and the challenges in keeping. And
I have 3 trucks that go down my street on waste day. So one's for this, and one's for that, and one's the waste truck. So that's what I mean. There's a lot of traveling.
yes, so as it is now, we have one truck that co-collects your garbage and your green bin waste, and the other truck collects your 2 streams of recycling. You may see a third truck traveling down your road as well, and that one is collecting leaf and yard waste on a monthly basis.
Okay. Thank you for your time, and great.
Thanks.
Councillor Bateman.
Hi, Adam. Thanks for the presentation. It's really one question with 2 parts, and it kind of ties into the diversion part. Right now, is there a limit? Like I know some places or some families would only have a need for 1 recycle bin, gray and blue, and 1 organic. Are you allowed, is there a limit on how many blue and gray bins and organic you can have? And the second part of that is, I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets it, especially at wintertime when you have broken bins. Can you explain too, so that we're all on the same page, and more so the residents, the process to replace bins that get broken? With winter coming, that's when it usually see the uptick of that.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So the county, when we rolled this out, we did provide 1 blue, 1 gray box, and a green bin and a kitchen catcher to every household at the time. Now any new residents is required to purchase those boxes or bins. We sell the blue and the gray boxes for $6 each. They are quite reasonable. They're at our cost. A resident can put as much recycling as they would like at curbside. Our bylaw does not prohibit, it does not have a limit on the amount of recyclables that a resident can place out. We do have a 20 box or 20 container limit on commercial. We also have a 2 bag limit for garbage and a 2 green bin limit for residential, and a 3 bin limit for some commercial. So the limits are 2 bags of garbage, 2 green bins, and unlimited recyclables for any residential dwelling.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
And my apologies. So the question on the blue and the gray boxes. So if you bring us a broken blue or gray box, we will exchange that free of charge. You can bring it to our county headquarters building or to any one of our 3 community recycling centers. So as long as you bring us a piece of a broken blue or gray box, we will exchange it in kind. It doesn't even need to be a Northumberland County issued one. If you had one from before that's gotten broken, we will exchange those free of charge. But we do require the broken portion of the box in order to get a free one.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. A question I have is, we often hear that we can recycle all we like, but often it can actually be brought somewhere to be recycled. What I'm saying is that sometimes we're setting out all this recycling, you're getting it, but you can't actually find a place to recycle it. And I'd like to hear more about that, whether that's actually truth or whether that's just a myth that we hear out there.
Well, it's the truth. Whatever you, I guess what I would say is what we're capturing in Northumberland County, what we're asking residents to put in our blue and our gray boxes, is being captured and is being sent to markets. So we do have markets for everything that we ask for. And as I mentioned earlier, so Not 100% of what comes into our facility gets captured. Even if it is recyclable, there are some opportunities where things don't get captured, and sometimes there is contamination that makes its way in. So that's why I mentioned earlier that 88% of what comes into our MRF gets put into bales and sent out to markets to be recycled. 12% of what's coming in is being baled and sent to our landfill. And that's why you may have people say, I went to the Brighton landfill and I saw a bale of plastics. Well, it may be that it was plastic films that are not acceptable. Like we get a lot of chip bags and stand-up pouches and Kool-Aid pouches, things like that that are not recyclable. We do not have a market for those, and we don't encourage residents to place those into the recycling. So that material, even though it comes to our MRF, ends up going to landfill. So the stuff that we're asking people to put into our blue and gray boxes is absolutely being captured and being marketed, and most of it is being marketed locally within Ontario.
Follow up.
Thank you. And 12% isn't actually that bad, so I appreciate that. Just one last thing, we were talking about broken bins, and we all see it where I don't know if these guys are paid by how many houses they collect, but they are in a hurry and the bins do get broken. I find though, and this is an issue, they often will leave the bins upside down on the sidewalk, which creates an accessibility issue. And I'm just not sure, I guess I'm speaking to you just to, encourage them not to do that, on the driveway, on the grass is fine, but not on the sidewalks.
Yes, and that is something that we do bring up with our contractor a fair bit. So that is one of the obligations that it was in our contract, and it's also what they call a Miller standard, which is that the boxes are to be stacked neatly at curbside. So if we're seeing that that's not happening, we bring that up with Miller, and they deal with their driver to educate them about the proper way to set it. So in most cases, you should be seeing that the blue and the gray boxes are nested inside of each other at the end of collection day, and they shouldn't be laying on the side of the sidewalk or in your driveway. In some days, the wind may blow them over when they're empty, but in most cases they should be stacked neatly.
And if residents are noticing that this is not happening on a regular basis, who should they get in touch with, Adam?
They can contact our waste hotline. The waste hotline is available. The number is on our website. It's on our calendar. But yes, if you let us know the waste hotline, I can read it out to you. It's 1-866-293-8379. If they call that, or if they email us, we will address that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of council for clarification purposes? Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you for your indulgence.
With that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council receive the presentation from Adam McCue, Manager, Environmental and Technical Services, County of Northumberland, regarding the County Landfill EA process. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Thank you again, Adam. We appreciate you coming.
Thanks.
Our next presenter is Abigail. And Abby, I should have asked you how to pronounce your last name when I had you on the line a couple of weeks ago.
That's pronounced Mcilquham.
Abigail Mcilquham, Associate Director, Healthcare Advancement, University Hospital Kingston Foundation, regarding grant and aid application in support of the redevelopment of Kingston General Hospital. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'll share my screen now. You can see that all right?
We can.
Okay. Well, thank you for the introduction and for including me in your committee meeting today. I appreciate the opportunity to share some updates with you regarding Kingston's hospitals. As you know, Kingston Health Sciences Centre is the acute care hospital for Southeastern Ontario. Though you may not be aware that this hospital is in the planning stages of a very large redevelopment of the Kingston General Hospital site. I'm going to provide an update on this project and share some data on how Brighton residents are currently using these hospitals, and hopefully inspire you to start considering how Brighton can make an impact on this important stage of healthcare modernization. At University Hospitals Kingston Foundation, we are the fundraising arm of Kingston Health Sciences Centre and Providence Care. These healthcare providers meet the complex needs of people living in small cities, towns, and rural areas across Southeastern Ontario. From hospital to home to community programs, the residents from our region receive exceptional care across a broad range of services. Our mission at UHKF is to inspire generosity for the health of our families, our region, and beyond. And this has always accounted for our neighbors in Brighton. As mentioned, KHSC is Southeastern Ontario's largest acute care academic hospital, consisting of our Hotel du Hospital site and Kingston General Hospital site and the Cancer Centre of Southeastern Ontario, as well as 2 research institutes. We care for more than 500,000 patients and families from across the region. The growth and sustainability of healthcare in Kingston has always relied on the generosity of community donors, including the residents of Brighton. In fact, UHKF has received over 40,000 in donations from residents of Brighton since 2015. Looking at how residents of Brighton are using the hospitals in Kingston, our data shows that in the last 5 years, there have been 29 babies from Brighton that have been cared for in the NICU. Not a huge number. However, the next closest facility that can care for these young and fragile patients is in Toronto or Ottawa. Depending on the length of stay in the NICU, travel costs could significantly impact those who must care for their infant, making Kingston a much more convenient option when compared to the alternative. Looking at last year, there were nearly 200 surgeries for Brighton residents. And if we look at all visits to the hospitals from 2020, we have over 2,200 visits from Brighton. This is made up of visits coming from inpatient, outpatient, patient, emergency department, and cancer treatments. When we look at individual patient numbers, we see the primary reason for your residents to come to Kingston's hospitals is unfortunately for cancer treatment. This data also indicates that your local community hospitals in Coburg, Camelford, Trenton, and Belleville are all doing a wonderful job of meeting the outpatient needs of your community. I also want to extend my gratitude to Council for your decision to provide financial support to some of these local hospitals. This allows the hospital in Kingston to do their job better and address the acute care needs of the entire region when needed. A strong network of community hospitals reduces wait times and demand on resources at our hospitals, opening up space and time to provide specialized procedures. Now let's shift focus to the redevelopment at KGH. Like so many communities across the country, healthcare providers in Kingston face the challenge of caring for an aging population while also addressing the rise in chronic disease. The immense pressure placed on facilities, as we've seen very clearly during this pandemic, makes this a complex balancing act. This has been the reality at KGH for far too long. They've made some creative workarounds to cope with inefficiencies while still delivering excellent care, but the limits have been reached. There's a new vision, one that requires a significant redevelopment at the KGH site. With commitment from government and community partners, KHSC will replace 4 current buildings with a state-of-the-art 12-story patient tower. The areas that have been prioritized for this phase of redevelopment include operating rooms, emergency department, labor and delivery, neonatal intensive care, and clinical labs. This next phase of redevelopment began back in 2010, and by 2016, the hospital received approval to move ahead with the functional program for these 5 key areas. In 2019, the Ministry of Health approved this redevelopment project. However, they indicated that we should be looking further into the future and expanded the scope to include 4 additional floors to the planned tower. At this stage of planning, the estimated cost ranges from $500 million to $1 billion. However, until we have an approved bid, we can't say for sure where it will fall in this price range. Any way you look at it, it's an incredibly ambitious rebuild and one that has required us to look outside of Kingston's borders, even outside of Southeastern Ontario, for support. KHSC recently completed the year-long process to develop the project-specific output specifications, which is just a way to say they have defined the physical requirements for the new space. Last month, we entered the RFQ stage, opening up applications for qualified bid teams, which will be followed by the RFP stage that will be issued to 3 pre-qualified design, build, finance teams in spring of next year. This entire process involves key groups of hospital staff, physicians, and advisors working with design and planners to map out the requirements for this new tower. Experts have also been consulted to advise on elements such as wayfinding, infection prevention and control, and sustainability. We hope to award a contract before the end of 2022 and begin building in spring of 2023 with 5 years of construction. I'd now like to review the top line plans for these 5 priority areas. KGH has the oldest surgical suites in the province that are still in use. There were more than 22,000 surgical procedures performed back in 2016, treating critical patients from Kingston, Southeastern Ontario, and beyond. Current spaces are not designed for today's modern surgical environments. Ventilation systems need upgrading, ceiling height and physical space do not accommodate staff, equipment, medical students, and training. They also are not designed for current infection control practices. The new tower will increase the surgical program by 50%, with 13 operating rooms and 3 procedure suites. This will allow us to respond to the increasing volume and complexity of surgeries, support advances in technology, and continue to recruit the best specialists to serve the region. New operating rooms will also provide an expanded scope of minimally invasive procedures for this area. Looking at the emergency department at KGH, they see over 60,000 patients each year. Those visits are expected to increase by 21% in the coming decade. More than 20% of people in need of care at KGH arrive by ambulance, and every moment counts. Many need life-saving or critical care. Every second it takes for a paramedic to deliver a patient to the care team matters. Modern emergency facilities will help save more lives and meet the growing demand. To transform emergency care, we must build space that is designed for ER teams to manage traumas, critical injuries confidently, and treat people experiencing mental illness crises with the dignity they deserve. KGH plans to double the footprint of our current ER when relocated to the new tower. The new space will include bigger trauma bays, a satellite imaging suite for on-site diagnostics, new isolation rooms, and will boost privacy to enhance dignity by creating purpose-built areas for those in crisis, as well as 25% more beds to reduce wait times. It will also see the helipad move from the waterfront to the top of the 12-story tower. As a local provider of pediatric inpatient and critical care and the Regional Center for High-Risk Obstetrics, KGH offers the best care to women and children who have serious health concerns. Unfortunately, the current hospital facilities do not provide the space or privacy to support the level of care KGH strives to offer these women and children. The new patient tower will transform the women and children's health program and will include new labor and delivery rooms, new operating rooms, infant resuscitation, gynecology, surgical suites, and pediatrics. Currently, the pediatric program in Kingston is divided between the 2 hospital sites at KGH and Hotel Dieu. The goal is to consolidate the program, linking the main floor emergency department and the pediatric wing. This move will build capacity and expertise, enabling physicians who currently must go back and forth between the 2 sites to provide care in one place on a 24-hour basis. Kingston is one of only 5 communities in the province to offer sophisticated high-risk neonatal care. Our unit is part of a provincial network of specialized neonatal services with 22 beds. The KGH site cares for babies from Kingston and the region, as well as from across the province when other NICUs are full. More than 400 newborn babies are admitted to the NICU each year. The number of patient days in NICUs across the province has been steadily increasing in recent years as babies are now sustained with life-saving equipment at earlier gestations. The new KGH tower includes a new design and relocation of the NICU within the hospital to better meet the needs of the families. The revitalized NICU will allow for more private rooms, the most advanced technology in all aspects of care, and superior infection control as a top priority. A new family room will offer a space for parents of fragile newborns to connect with and support each other. A care by parent room will help ensure patients will be supported as they acquire the skills and confidence to look after their little ones. The new design also includes a bereavement room designed to help families say goodbye to their baby by providing a respectful, private, and supportive space. Every day, lab staff at KGH must decide how to work around the limitations of the space. With pathology, genetics, biochemistry, hematology, and microbiology currently spread across several cluttered floors, collaboration is challenging. KHSC's labs has nearly doubled their number of tests in the last 10 years to approximately 8 million tests per year. The clinical labs are central to Ontario's hospitals, including Trenton, Belleville, Peterborough, Napanee, Brighton, Perth, and Smith Falls. More recently, during the pandemic, the labs have been at the forefront, providing testing support to public health labs and other hospitals in the province. And they are one of only 4 hospitals in the province accredited to do variants of concern sequencing. The redevelopment will bring the KGH labs into a larger space. It will be a better environment for the lab team and will provide room for state-of-the-art technology that will assist in getting quality, accurate results in the hands of care team members and patients as quickly as possible. So what will this all cost? As I previously mentioned, the 12-story tower is estimated to cost between $500 million and $1 billion. The community's local share of this cost is $160 million. I'm sure you're familiar that with the local share formula for Infrastructure Ontario healthcare projects, local share has the government paying 90% of the cost of construction, while the local community must raise the remaining 10% plus 100% of the cost of ancillary spaces, furniture, and equipment. Ideally, the local share will be funded by investments from community members who realize the importance of being able to access quality care locally and the need for hospitals to have the modern infrastructure to provide that care. Any difference between community contributions and local share will have to be made up by the hospital through borrowing and drawing on already strained budgets. This draw on resources will negatively impact KHSC's ability to provide the level of care that patients deserve. We are hopeful that we will be able to incite the community to help us meet the local share to avoid this draw on resources. The support of the town of Brighton will help us in achieving this lofty goal and set an example of leadership and philanthropy to others in our community. This is where the lines between provincial and municipal budgets can get a little blurry. We know that healthcare is a provincial responsibility, but the fact remains that municipal dollars have been supporting the gap in healthcare for many years. The local share is still quite significant and often out of reach for many communities. The rapidly increasing cost of new technology is a big factor. Without the cutting edge technologies, we would all be traveling to major city centers like Toronto or Ottawa for more complex care. We are fortunate to have the majority of medical services close to home, but there's a cost associated with this. As you can see here, a number of municipalities in Ontario have stepped in with significant support for their hospitals. This chart is intended to show that while healthcare is not the responsibility of local municipalities, we wouldn't be able to have the level of care without their support, and this has been common for quite some time. I will admit that these municipalities do not reflect Brighton's size or budgets, but I share this to show how municipalities are impacting healthcare in our province. I was able to speak with Mayor Ostrander leading up to this presentation, and he thought it would be helpful to share what the other municipalities have pledged for support for redevelopment at KGH. I'm happy to share that we have the support of almost all the surrounding counties and municipalities, and we'd be very happy to have Brighton's consideration in joining them. I'll try to review these quickly, starting with Quinte West, who pledged $395,000 over 5 years, with 10,000 patients making 29,000 visits to our hospital last year. Belleville pledged $595,000 over 5 years, with 12,000 patients making 36,000 visits to the hospital last year. Prince Edward County recently pledged $400,000 over 10 years, with 6,500 patients making 18,000 visits to the hospital last year. Lennox and Addington recently pledged $750,000 over 10 years, with 35,000 patients making 88,000 visits to the hospital. Frontenac County recently pledged $550,000 over 10 years, with nearly 9,000 patients making 16,000 visits to the hospital. Leeds and Grenville pledged $600,000 over 5 years, with 19,000 patients making 42,000 visits to the hospital last year. I'll share my request here. UHKF invites the members of Brighton Town Council to support the redevelopment efforts at Kingston General Hospital with a 5-year pledge. Based on the information shared today and relying on the usage data for Brighton residents and the level of support from neighboring municipalities, UHKF is seeking a pledge of $62,500 paid over 5 years, which translates to $12,500 per year. This type of pledge would show significant regional support for the acute care center for our region and the residents that need to use their services, and it would bring us one step closer to our local share goal. This amount also acts as a matching gift at a 1 to 1.5 match of what the Brighton residents gave last year, which was just under $8,500. This concludes my presentation. I want to thank you for your time and attention. We understand there are many pressures and demands on your municipal budget, including the support that you have committed to your local community hospitals. And I hope that some of the information I've shared today was thought-provoking at the very least and will allow you to consider supporting the KGH redevelopment in addition to your other local priorities. The value residents place on access to healthcare close to home is difficult to measure, but we know that it is usually one of their highest priorities. I'd be happy to answer any questions where possible. And if I don't have an answer for you today, I can always address it and get back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Mcilquham. We appreciate you coming and giving us this information and backgrounders and offering us your request as well. I'll open the floor to members of council for questions of clarification on your presentation. Councillor Bateman.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a question, just a compliment. I think that all of us are aware how important Kingston, both the hospitals and the cancer clinic are, and probably all of us at some time has had a member of the family or or close friend there. So we don't make decisions tonight with the delegation, but I certainly would encourage the rest of council to think very positively of supporting something like this when we do our budget.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions on the presentation? Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Mayor. My question was, you're hoping to kind of begin the building in 2023
That's correct.
with a completion date 5. Do you figure it'll take 5 years or 3 years
It will take 5 years, 5, 6, but 5 for sure.
for the build out?
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions or clarification? So I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that council receive the presentation from Abigail Mcilquham, Associate Director, Healthcare Advancement, University Hospitals Kingston Foundation, regarding a grant and aid application for support of the redevelopment of Kingston General Hospital. Are there any questions? Councillor Rowley?
Thank you. Do we have to add anything to add it to the budget or anything like that? Or
I
is
guess
that-
I would ask the mover if you'd be okay if we added and refer the funding request to budget deliberations.
Does it automatic, did they submit a grant and aid? Does it,
They have not.
no? If they haven't, then I'm fine with putting in there. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Anderson as a second, are you okay with that? I have added and refer the funding request to budget deliberations. That works for you? That works for you? Any other questions on the motion with the friendly amendment? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Thanks, Abby.
Thanks for your time this evening.
Our next presentation comes from Jennifer Bishop and Chris Ann Hansen, Highland Shores Children's Aid Society, Dress Purple Month, Child Abuse Prevention Month. Jennifer, Chris Ann, are you there?
It'll be myself this evening, Erin Beatty, Jennifer, and Chris Ann. Unfortunately, we're called away at the last minute, so I will be presenting this evening. Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Erin Beatty, and I'm the Executive Coordinator at Therapeutic Family Care. I would like to thank you for providing me with the opportunity to talk about this important issue. On Dress Purple Day, we celebrate the community that cares for families and share the message that help is available and no one is alone. We raise awareness that children's aid societies are community organizations that are part of the circle of care that supports the well-being of children, youth, and families. This is an opportunity to remind Ontarians that children's aid societies work together with many other social service providers to help children, youth, and families facing challenges. Children's aid societies collaborate with key partners to speak up for every child and youth's right to safety and well-being in all spaces, and to celebrate the community that cares for kids. Dress Purple Day is an opportunity for children's aid societies to build partnerships with local cross-sector providers and commit to strengthening families through enhanced community-based prevention and early intervention. This aligns with a key pillar of the Ontario government's Child Welfare Redesign Initiative focused on strengthening partnerships and prevention and early intervention. This day offers an opportunity to raise awareness among children and youth, including elementary and high school students, about their right to safety and well-being in all spaces. Dress Purple Day offers an opportunity to remind adults about the important role they play in supporting vulnerable children, youth, and families. This includes every adult's legal duty to call their local children's aid society if they have a concern about the safety or well-being of a child or youth. There are many reasons that families become involved with Highland Shores Children's Aid. This slide just shows a graph of the many reasons why, and it's a comparison from last year to this year. What we know about child protection: nearly 50% of all substantiated investigations of child abuse in Ontario involve exposure to intimate partner violence. In 21% of investigations, neglect was identified as an overriding concern, while physical abuse was the primary form of maltreatment in 19% of the families. Ontario's leading academic study on child abuse and neglect shows that children remaining at home in 97% of children's aid investigations. This is not the case for Indigenous and Black children who are overrepresented in the child welfare system due to systemic racism. The overrepresentation of Indigenous children and youth is due to the historical injustice perpetrated against First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities by the Canadian government and provincial child welfare systems. These injustices include residential schools and the 60 Scoop. These colonial legacies have resulted in community impairment, intergenerational trauma, and the overrepresentation of Indigenous children in the child welfare system. The top refers to Children's Aid Society in order are schools, law enforcement, parents, community health, or social services professionals. This next slide will also show who's reporting to Highland Shores Children's Aid. Again, it's a comparative graph from last year to this year. Children's Aid Societies investigate referrals from professionals and the public concerned about a caregiver's treatment of a child or youth. These concerns include that a child or youth is experiencing physical, sexual, and emotional abuse, and/or that the child or youth is being neglected. Children's Aid Societies work with children and youth where neglect is a key factor. Their families may be struggling with chronic challenges such as mental health issues, addiction, domestic violence, or extreme financial stress, including the lack of basic needs such as shelter and food. Child welfare research and data indicate that unemployment, lack of housing, and food insecurity play an important role in family crises that lead to Children's Aid Society involvement. These findings show that effective prevention starts with ensuring that adequate economic and social supports are in place so that families can look after their children. COVID has certainly had an impact on service. Dress Purple Day offers an opportunity to remind Ontarians that Children's Aid Societies and Indigenous child and family well-being agencies are open and providing services, and that if they have a concern about the safety or well-being of a child or youth, or if their family is in need of support, that they should certainly call. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Children's Aid Societies and Indigenous child and family well-being agencies have played a critical role in supporting vulnerable children, youth, and families. Often they've been the only service providing in-person care during this especially difficult time. Partnerships across the social service system have proven essential to ensuring that families continue to receive the supports they need to stay healthy and well. Dress Purple Day is an opportunity to showcase those partnerships and an innovative approach to service delivery and to recognize the important work of Children's Aid Societies. This is a geographical breakdown for all of Highland Shores regions. We've broke it down into each individual area of people that are receiving services currently. And what you can do, please dress purple and reach out to a family or friend in your community to tell them that you're here to help. Learn about what local resources are available to help families in your community. Example of programming at a local library, crisis line, mental health support, food banks. Engage in conversation with your neighbors, friends, community members about what supports are available. Have conversations about the way that you can help. You can make a difference. Please join us by wearing purple on October the 27th. The Children's Foundation in Belleville does have t-shirts available for sale if anyone is interested, or if there's a place and someone's interested, certainly contact me and I can drop off lapel pins for anyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beatty. I will open the floor to members of council for questions or clarification. Council? There being none, we thank you very much for your presentation. I do know there's correspondence on the agenda to specifically look at declaring October as Dress Purple Month and Child Prevention Month. So we'll be dealing with that later on in the agenda.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. And Councillor Anderson and Councillor Bateman, who are the mover and seconder, I have altered the motion to accurately reflect Ms. Beatty as the presenter, but I'll read it. And if you don't like it, you can let me know. So it's moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council received the delegation from Aaron Beatty, Highland Shores Children's Aid Society, Dress Purple Month, Child Abuse Prevention Month. Councillor Anderson as the mover, you okay with that? Councillor Bateman as a seconder. All those in favor? Sorry, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. That takes us into citizens' comment. Madam Clerk, are you aware of anyone joining us this evening for citizens' comment? So Mr. Seawright, citizens' comment is an opportunity for members of the public to submit comments to or ideas to council on matters appearing before council on tonight's agenda. A maximum of 10 minutes is set aside for citizens' comment, but each speaker may speak for a maximum of 2 minutes to provide council with their comments. It is noted that language, content, and conduct must remain respectful at all times. Comments will be received without comment, debate, or questions from council. As the presiding officer, I may request clarification or ask for additional information on the comments from you, sir. So Mr. Seawright, you have the floor. You there, John? It looks like you're muted, John. And you're still muted, John. Or you're muted again, I think, is the. We can only ask for him to unmute himself. There he goes. I think you're unmuted, John. Go ahead. You're unmuted through Zoom, but for some reason we can't hear you. So it's perhaps your microphone on your computer that's preventing us from hearing you. Mr. Seawright, I understand that you are also given a telephone number to call into the Zoom meeting. Would you like to try to do that? We're getting a head nod. So we're going to try to call in. We won't start the clock until he's actually in. Yeah. And it's the first staff report, or I'd go on and let him chime back in. We're still in open council session, everyone, just to be aware, and we're still live on YouTube.
I don't know if it's allowed. Mr. Seawright called me just before I left for council. Do you want me to attempt to call him on my phone and he can speak through that into the microphone, or is that permissible?
I think we need to have him up here. I would bet the 50 cents in my pocket that Mr. Seawright wants to speak in favor of the staff report, but. Okay. It's just coming in now. Oh, here we go. Can you ask the Galaxy S9 to unmute? Don't know. John, we've just connected with something called the Galaxy S9. If is that you? Yeah, he's nodding his head yes. It's muted right now according to the Zoom icon. So if you can unmute your Galaxy S9, then we should be able to hear you. There he is. Nope. I don't know how to. John, it still says it's connecting to audio, and it's been doing that for a while now. I'm making the assumption you're chiming in for citizens' comment to speak in favor of the staff report. Is that true? And Mr. Seawright is nodding his head yes. So I'm going to thank you for attempting to come into Brighton Council. I'm sorry it didn't work out. Technology is wonderful when it's working, as we all know, and incredibly frustrating when it's not. Mr. Seawright, if there's more information you'd like us to have, please feel free to email any or all of us with that information, but we're going to head on into the agenda now, sir. Thank you. Are we aware of anyone else joining us for citizens' comment? Deputy Clerk, thank you. Our first staff report is with regard to a recommendation with regard to pickleball location. Mr. Miller, we've read this report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
Just wanted to highlight that the pickleball club is aware of the site and are quite happy with it.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And before we do that, I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, second by Councillor LeBlanc, that Council receive the citizens' comment, even though it was just a head nod, submitted at the September 20th, 2021 Council meeting. Is there any discussion? Councillor Tadman.
Thank you, Mayor. I also talked to John this afternoon, and he was anticipating he might have problems getting through. So he just asked me to please let council and staff know that the club really appreciated the good work that they did, and they're very happy with the new place.
Thank you. Councillor Rowley.
Question answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller, you made your highlight, I assume, with that comment before I went backward there in the agenda a minute.
Yeah, I think overall it's the best location that we have that we own. And it will just take a permit from Lower Trent Conservation, which we've discussed with them, and they've assured us that they will approve it once we submit a permit. So I think everything's pretty much covered.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council receives a staff report regarding recommended pickleball locations, and further that council direct municipal staff to relocate the new pickleball courts to King Edward Park in the vacant area behind the lower ball diamond, and work closely with the Lower Trent Conservation Authority staff as well as the local pickleball club to ensure a successful project. Is there any discussion? Councillor Bateman.
I just wanted to add and echo what Councillor Tadman has said, because when I was speaking to Mr. Seawright, he expressed the same thing. He was very concerned about the ability to call in. He just wanted to make sure, because I think he's the president of the pickleball club. And we pointed out this location, I think way back in August, Jim, and they went down to see it then, they went down to see it again. So they really liked that location for the proximity to the washroom and everything else. And they at some point want to reach out to the school board and hopefully incorporate that into the school system. The only thing I was going to add was, I'm glad this is the location that everybody's in favor of, because some of the other locations had the residential areas around it. And I don't think we could move this ahead quickly because we deferred the other one with that other part attached to it that we talk to people in and around.
Because we
So,
would want to consult with the local residents if we did that.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. What's the time frame that we would be able to move forward with this?
Mr. Miller?
I hope to be able to move forward with it in the next few weeks to at least start the excavation work. It's going to be dependent on when they can get asphalt crew in to pave it. We may not be seeing any painting until next spring, however. You need to have a certain temperature. You need to have the asphalt to cure as well before you can paint on it.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Miller, I forwarded an email to you, and I just want to be public and open about it. Someone had asked if we had considered the space to the west of the picnic shelter, and I understand that that space was considered by staff. Do you want to make a comment, sir?
Sure. I was referred to that site 3 weeks ago, and I went down and I measured it, and it's just too tight of an area. There's so much going on there because it's right beside the ball diamond, splash pad, playground. There's just too much in that area to be able to make it function. Plus, the area is too small.
So it wouldn't fit.
No, you'd be right on top of the creek.
Thank you. And my last question is, we received a substantial grant for this project. That's not impacted by the decision tonight or the fact that it will go through to 2022?
No, there was an extension to that grant for a period of 2 more years. It needs to be finished December 31st, 2023. And when I inquired about moving the site, the stipulation was it had to be on municipally owned land.
So we've
And we
satisfied the conditions there. That's good. Any other questions from members of council? Councillor Tadman?
Thank you, Mayor. The access to that, is there going to be a walkway into the back part of that? And I was just thinking, maybe not right now, but we should always be concerned for those, not necessarily that will be playing, but people that have any kind of a disability to be able to go and watch, because it is quite a fun sport to be a spectator at.
Mr. Miller?
Yeah, we did. We're discussing that actually this afternoon, myself and Mr. Poole, and we're looking at the possibility of putting in a trail extension from the rubber trail that we have at near the ball canteen, and taking it around the fencing for the outside perimeter of that ball diamond to go over to that area. Again, we'd have to put it in our permit to Lower Trent, since it's beside the creek.
Councillor Anderson?
I think it's a good location. My question is, having talked to the pickleball group even for the last few years, their whole plan is to possibly have more regional events and bring in people into the community to take part in those events. And would there be enough room there for, or can we provide that space at the time when they have those events come to town? I think they're talking even provincial at some point.
Mr. Miller?
Well, I mean, what they asked for 4 courts, which is what we'll put in, and that's most courts, I believe, from what, Kingston to Oshawa. I believe Mr. Seawright mentioned in an earlier letter. There's also 6 courts that are on the floor in the arena,
Right.
right? That we can also use in the summer if they had to, have more courts available for a tournament.
That's perfect. And their proximity is good too, to the whole thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. Yeah,
It has not, I just want to make sure that this goes out somehow to the public, because there was a lot of public input or, social media input into this. I just like the community to know that we've made a decision.
Mr. Castleman, will we be able to issue a press release with regard to this decision this evening? Thank you. We're getting a head nod from the CAO that a press release will go out. Next item on the agenda is Northumberland County Dispatch Agreement. Chief Smith, there you are. We've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
No, your worship.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton received the report entitled Enbridge. Nope, wrong one. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council received the staff report regarding Northumberland County Dispatch Agreement, and that council enter a 5-year single multi-party agreement with Northumberland County and the 7-member municipalities. Is there any question or comment from members of council? Those in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is the Enbridge franchise agreement. Madam Clerk, we've read this report. Do you have anything to add or highlight? She says no, she does not. Thank you very much. I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Bateman. That Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton received the report entitled Enbridge Franchise Agreement Renewal dated September 20th, 2021, and that Council approves the form of draft bylaw and franchise agreement attached here to, and authorize the submission thereof to the Ontario Energy Board for approval pursuant to the provisions of Section 9 of the Municipal Franchises Act, and that the council requests that the Ontario Energy Board make an order declaring and directing that the assent of the municipal electors to the attached draft bylaw and the franchise agreement pertaining to the corporation of the municipality of Brighton is not necessary pursuant to the provisions of Section 9, subsection 4 of the Municipal Franchises Act, and further that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to enter into the franchise agreement with Enbridge Gas Distribution Incorporated upon receipt of notice of a decision and order from the Ontario Energy Board and subsequent passing of the bylaw. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion is carried. Next report is with regard to the Brighton Royal Canadian Legion sign variance. Mr. McGee, I think I saw you there. Mr. McGee, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
I just want to highlight the waiving of the fees as mentioned in the analyzing the report or the comments in the report. The Legion has requested that the municipality waive the $200 sign variance fees and the $75 permit fees to help offset cost for the digital sign. So if the sign is approved by council, the motion may need to reflect if council wishes to waive the fees as well.
Thank you, sir. I'll read the motion as it is signed and before me, and then ask council if they'd like to add to it. It's moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that council receives the report dated September 20th, 2021, being a sign variance to permit the use of a LED information sign, and that the council of the municipality of Brighton grants approval to the sign variance through resolution as requested by the Brighton Royal Canadian Legion Branch 125 Park Street to permit a LED digital sign to inform members and the public of upcoming events. Councillor Bateman, do you want to add anything to this?
I don't know if I want to add, I just had a question on what's the location of the sign, because being LD, and I'm in favor of waiving, because, because that's our emergency. I was just wondering the location, if it's facing any of those apartment buildings.
It would appear that it's going to go on the east wall.
So.
It will face the liquor store and the chiropractic center.
Yeah, 'cause I was just gonna ask if it had a feature, because it was facing where it might interrupt, at nighttime, whether it had a feature to turn off, but I don't think that will impact anybody over there.
Mr. McGee, am I reading this picture correctly, that that's the wall it will go on?
Yeah, it appears that it's good. You can see Park Street to the right of that photo, so that would be facing the LCBO.
So if I'm standing at the LCBO facing west, not that I've ever done that, of course, I would see this sign.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. I don't even know where the liquor store is. I've never been there. Do you want to add, so there's a request in here to waive the fees and charges.
I
Are
would
we-
change it to, I'm in favor of supporting it.
So
Second
Councillor
one?
Anderson, do you agree with that? Just shy of 300, 275? The total fees and charges for this would be 275, Mr. McGee?
That's correct. 200 for the sign variance fee and 75 for the sign permit fee.
I'm fine with that. Thank.
There.
That'd be a nice addition to the Legion there.
So there's a variance fee and a what?
Sign permit fee.
So I've written, and further that council waives the fees related to the variance and permit. Are you okay with that, Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, I just wanted clarification, and that we use that as one of our emergency shelters as well, right?
I believe we do,
Yeah,
yes.
so, yeah. So we'd be putting all those messages on there, so I think, yeah.
You okay with that wording, Councillor Anderson?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, we are dealing with a sign variance. We've had a few cross our desk this year, and I was wondering if there would be opportunity to build on this motion by adding that we could have staff review and update our sign bylaw.
Mover and seconder, would you be okay with that? Adding that to this motion?
I'm fine with it, but this variance is slightly different than the last one, right? Because this is
Yeah.
not a size issue, this is a request to waive.
Well, this is, we don't permit LED signs in our sign bylaw at the moment, so I think Councillor Rowley's request is to update our sign bylaw, so we don't have to come back to council every time someone wants a sign
Yeah.
that was designed in 2015.
No, I would agree with that, because I think we must have waived them in the past, because we have one at ENSS and.
It just seems that we've had individual requests for different things this year. So I would just like to kind of see us clean up the sign bylaw. So as you said, so that we're not, staff isn't always coming back with one-off requests.
You okay with that?
Yes, I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
So I have added, and further that council directs staff to review the sign bylaw and provide updates for council's consideration. You okay with that, Councillor Bateman? You okay with that, Councillor Anderson?
Yes.
Any further discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Over the last number of years, I think we've had 3 or 4 organizations come to us asking about asking us to do a minor variance for the LED light sign. So definitely it's time to look at our sign bylaw. So appreciate that.
Thank you for that. Councillor Bateman, I saw your hand up before and I missed you. I'm sorry. Thank you. Anything further from members of council? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Takes us to the biosolids removal from waste lagoon. Mr. Parkinson, no, Mr. Poole. I think I saw Scott out there. Yeah, Mr. Poole, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir? You're muted, Scott.
No, your worship.
Thank you. We have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman. The council received the staff report regarding biosolids removal from wastewater lagoon, and further that council award tender PW 2021-21 biosolids removal from wastewater lagoon contract to Revolution Environmental Solutions LP to the maximum amount of $500,000 inclusive of HST. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. That takes us to the Indigenous walkway, and we've all received an email with a with a design that went around. It would be appropriate, I think, rather than having discussion by email, to bring it, just to have it in front of council and possibly pass a motion. So, Mr. Parkinson, since you sent this email, I'll ask if you have anything to add, or if you'd like to just maybe make a brief presentation on your email to us for the public's consideration.
Yes, your worship. Yeah, so I do apologize for the lateness of this item coming before council, but it is an important one, and I believe everybody on council wants to see something happen on this matter. I had a discussion with Chief Mowat today, and from that discussion came this idea of painting this 6 to 8 inch orange band that flanks the 3 open public sides of our park. And within that will contain some information, the truth and reconciliation, and every child matters, together with the 7 feathers of the grandfathers, and those would flank both sides on Veterans Way, and as well as Kingsley Avenue. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer it.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council support the staff report regarding the proposed Indigenous Heritage Sidewalk location. Any discussion? Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad to see this, and I'm sure this kind of covers all of the accessibility issues that we might have had concerns about had we used a crossway. This is thinking outside the box, and kudos to staff for coming up with something different. I appreciate the effort.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
I'll just confirm. I agree with that 100% too. This, when you do this sidewalk and that, how long will this, the product stay on the, is it going to look tired? Is it going to, are we going to keep it up, or do we just, is this for this year only? Those are questions that might pop up. I know I see other communities with sidewalks done and they don't look very good now. And I know winter will probably remove most of it, but on the sidewalk it might not too. So,
Mr. Parkinson?
Through your worship, it'll have the same similar lifespan that the yellow painted curb does, minus all the black marks and whatnot it receives from tires rubbing up against it. And if it continues any length of time, that'll have to be refreshed every year just to keep it fresh and clean.
I think that's important because, yeah, I think that's important. And if it's the curbs, they do last longer than the crosswalk, I'm sure. But no, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from members of council? Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you very much, Preston, for this, Chair. And the thing is, of it wears out, we should never forget, so it should continue on.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Takes us to the council direction follow-up list. The motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Rowley. The council received the council follow-up list as presented. Questions or comments from members of council? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. We have no notices of motion or motions. We have no unfinished business on the agenda this evening, which takes us to the bylaw for the franchise agreement with Enbridge. Moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council gives a bylaw. It's for second and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to authorize a franchise agreement between the corporation of the municipality of Brighton and Enbridge Consumers, or pardon me, Enbridge Gas Incorporated. Questions or comments from members of council? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Next bylaw is to execute an agreement for fire communications and equipment services. It's moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman. The council gives a bylaw. It's first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the councils of the city of Peterborough, County of Northumberland, and the 7 municipalities to which the city of Peterborough will provide certain communication equipment and services to the municipalities and the county. Any comments or questions from members of council? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Next bylaw is agreement to provide fire protection services to the Workworth Institution, moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson. That council gives a bylaw. It's first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the corporation of the municipality of Brighton and the Commissioner of Corrections to provide fire protection services to Workworth Institution within the municipal boundaries of the municipality of Brighton. Any questions or comments? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Next bylaw is a site plan agreement with BN Construction Limited. It's moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Bateman. The council gives a bylaw. It's first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the corporation of the municipality of Brighton and BN Construction Limited regarding a site plan agreement pertaining to lands located in Concession B, Lot 33, being Part 4 on Plan 39R 14237, Township of Brighton and the municipality of Brighton in the County of Northumberland. Any questions or comments from members of council? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Next bylaw is a blanket property easement, Stallwood Homes. It's moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Blanc. The council gives a bylaw. It's for second and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the corporation of the municipality of Brighton and Stallwood Homes for a blanket property easement for the purposes of installing underground infrastructure. Questions or comments from members of council? Councillor LeBlanc.
Mayor, has this come in front of us to show a map where these easements are going to be?
This is with regard to the water main replacement,
Oh,
or the twinning, right? The twinning of the water main,
okay.
the loop, the water main loop for that section of the municipality. There was a staff report last meeting of council.
Yeah, but it didn't show where all the easements were and everything on the map.
Mr. Parkinson?
Through your worship. Yes, the contract was awarded a meeting or two ago. And this is the blanket easement across that entire property that Stallwood owns across from the Coles along Ontario Street. And it also contains some walking trails in there as well. So they gave us a blanket easement so that we can install the loop from Ontario Street to the Applewood or the Orchard Gate subdivision. It also includes a creek crossing that they'll have to pour underneath.
Any further questions? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. This brings us to reports of advisory committees of council. Reports, minutes, and council reports. The first is from Community Events and Civic Awards. It's moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Rowley. The council received the May 18th, 2021 Community Events and Civic Awards Advisory Committee meeting minutes as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. And from our Economic Development Advisory Committee, motion moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that council received the April 1st, June 3rd, July 8th, and August 19th, 2021 Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting minutes as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And from the Apple Fest Committee, it's moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman. The council received the Apple Fest Advisory Committee February 17th, 2021 meeting minutes as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? Go ahead.
I'm just wondering why we're receiving February. We've already received ones after that.
Madam Clerk?
Do we know? Were they missed?
I think they were missed.
Okay.
So we're just catching up. I'll ask for the vote again. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. That brings us to reports and minutes of statutory committees, boards, and external agencies. The one before us this evening is from the DBIA. It's moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council received the DBIA August 23rd, 2021 meeting minutes as presented. Any discussion? Councillor Bateman.
Not really a discussion, just a question for clarification. When I was reviewing all the minutes, all the committees that I sit on, the ones here, it's always motion, and you might be able to answer, Councillor Rowley, a motion seconder, and then it's voted on and carried. Is this one set up differently where it's motion to accept, so it's just a first, a second, and do they vote on it, or is it's just the wording the way it's written out?
Councillor Rowley.
I don't know that I can answer that, Councillor Bateman. I think a lot of our meetings are basically just discussions and agreements that we, but if council would like to see more detailed motions, I'm sure I can pass that on to our board and we can do it differently.
Specifically, it would not be up to council. This is a statutory board and they would have their own bylaws how to govern themselves.
Right. So we're good the way we are then, right?
That's
I
up,
wasn't
that's up
looking
to the
for-
DBIA to decide, not up to me to decide.
I will carry your message to the DBIA.
No, I wasn't looking for more detail in the motion.
no.
I just didn't know if it was set up differently because all the other committees, they
Right.
feel like they first, second, and then they carried it voting it. It doesn't written out that way. I just didn't know.
But other committees all fall under the policies of the municipality as we're kind of our own, right? So
Most.
we just basically highlight, discuss, and bring you what we have.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I think Councillor Bateman's point is that it doesn't say whether things are carried or not. So we don't, when we read through it, we don't know whether a decision was made. I think that's the only thing. It's just in it's wording. That's all. And no, we don't tell them what to do, but then when we read this, we don't know what's actually happened. That's all, I think.
I'm sure Councillor Rowley will take that
I will bring that
information
message.
back
Right.
and that the DBI will take it all under advisement.
Yes, we will.
There
Thank
we
you.
are. Sorry, I was just looking for the last page of the agenda there. I lost it. No, I got it. I found it. All right, that brings us to communications. Oh, did we vote on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. All right, speaking of procedures. Now we move to correspondence, direction items, endorsements, communications, and petitions. The first is from Highland Shores Children's Aid, moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson. The council support request from Highland Shores Children's Aid to proclaim the month of October as Dress in Purple Month. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And correspondence from the president of the Rotary Club, moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council receive or support the request from Joyce Casson, President Rotary Club of Brighton, to raise the World Polio Day flag at the Municipal Center from Monday, October 18th to the 24th, 2021. Are we supporting that?
I'm in favor of supporting it, but I guess I could ask if some staff, have we Because we always get these requests as well for flags. Is there any going to be overlapping?
I'm not aware of any at that time of year. Mr. Miller tends to help me out with flags. Mr. Miller, are you aware of any other requests from the 18th to the 24th of October at this stage?
Not offhand. I know the Rotary has a request in tonight.
That's the one we're dealing with.
Oh, sorry, no, yeah, I don't think there's anything at this point in time.
It looks like we're free.
I'm
and
good
clear.
with support, yeah.
Okay. So I have circled support. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Which brings us to the consent agenda, and I'll ask if anyone would like any of the three items taken out for further discussion, or if you'd like to support any of them. As an example, the OHIP eye care resolution from Trent Lakes, I would like to pull that out and support it under a separate cover. Councillor Tadman?
I would also.
Okay. So I'll write a separate motion for that. Any others? Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to seek some clarification in the updates from Northumberland County, August 26 to 29, specifically the county development charges background study.
Sure. Does it need to be discussed under separate motion? You're just looking for clarification. So we can do that under the consent agenda.
Okay, so
We
you
don't-
yeah, I don't need to pull it out
No.
for a motion.
It's just if
Thank
we're
you.
looking to specifically debate an issue within the item.
Okay,
Okay. Councillor LeBlanc?
When I read this on the development charge, Mayor, they just went after development charges. They just went and got the development charges this year, and they're already looking at an increase.
Well, we just increased ours because that's what we do every year. But we haven't gotten there. But we can discuss it when I read the motion.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that be it resolved, the staff recommendation with respect to consent agenda 17.1 and 17.2 be adopted as printed. Councillor Rowley, you first with regard to the county.
yes, I'm
Update.
just looking for a little bit of clarification, Mayor, as you sit on county council. Eliminating 10% statutory discount, yet increase the development charges by approximately 300 per single semi-detached or semi-detached dwelling. Are we talking like all 7-member municipalities as well, so that each developer builder would have to add an extra $300 of development charges that is sent now to the county?
As I understand it, yes. Because this would be the county's development charge.
Correct. And has this been common practice that we've always had an extra tab of these kind of dollars going to the county over the last several years, or is this just
The county
something new?
just passed the development charges bylaw last year. This is new,
So this is new,
relatively new.
right? And over and above those, we still have to pay, or developers and builders still have to pay for inspections and everything else, plus the $300, or is that all kind of captured in this $300? Because I
that-
think we still have plumbing and things like that, right? That have to go through the county.
Right, so as a result of the update to the development charges, it's an additional $300 for those kinds of units that are encapsulated in that conversation. But over and above that, developers have to pay Brighton, they have to pay Brighton's development charges, they have to pay Brighton's fees and charges for planning and Brighton's inspection costs, et cetera,
Right.
yes. Yes, that is
And
over and above that, yes.
and another plumbing inspection, blah, 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 which also goes to the county. So they get a
Correct.
little bit of money from developers and builders here then too, right?
Right.
Right.
Well, this is
Right.
other than the plumbing inspection, this is the first time the county's actually in recorded history asked for anything from developers.
I get that. And they can justify the growth-related pressures
They
of
do,
these per unit?
right, they actually use the same consultant we use, Watson and Associates, to justify growth-related pressures, same as we do. Councillor
Thank you.
Bateman.
I think sometimes we forget what the county does supply to each municipality, and you know, somehow that money has to be spread out over 7 municipalities, but we have such as the ambulance, social housing. Maybe we're not happy with everything that, but it's still a cost to the county. On one hand, we complain about the developers seem to gouge people, and then on the other hand, they are paying a lot for each lot. So I think realistically, in all fairness, when the development charges are looked at by a consultant, they compare that to the whole, maybe a province of Ontario. So I understand that it's hard pill to swallow, but somebody's got to pay for the infrastructure and all the services that are provided. We just heard of a good service tonight with the landfill. It all costs money. And we can argue even about garbage tags. And I don't like paying for them either. But we either pay for them at the end of the road, or we pay on our taxes. So
Right.
It's got to be paid.
It all has to be paid for. Any further comments or questions on these two items? Councillor LeBlanc.
I think, through you, Mayor, I think you remember, Mayor, that when they came for development charges, I was one of the only councillors in the 7 county municipalities that gave a 10-minute speech on why the county shouldn't be doing development charges when it flies in the face of affordable housing. If you're going to add $3,000 to $4,000 in development charges on a home, how can you go and say I want affordable housing and I want to do this when your infrastructure costs haven't changed and the money that you have in reserve, it dwarfs the seven municipalities, what we have. And to come back and say that we want $300 more to put here, it flies in the face again as saying development, affordable housing, and you would keep on adding costs. It's not the developer that pays, it's the resident that comes and buys the house that pays that and doesn't allow them to be able to afford a house. It might be $300, but it keeps on adding up when the municipality never got those charges. And the developments that we're doing now aren't attached or do not attach themselves to county roads. And so the way it was supposed to read, it was only supposed to be attached to county roads, but then it went to all development. Even if they don't attach to county roads, we still maintain the roads that we do. They don't attach to county roads, some of the development. So I don't know how they justify the development charges.
I think it's very easy to justify the development charges. It's not as if I only drive on, if I'm new to Brighton, a municipal roadway. At some point, I'll have to drive on a county road to get to Sobeys or to get to Coburg or to get to the 401. So all of those costs are growth, all of the costs of repair and maintenance become growth-related pressures, and a certain percentage of that becomes growth-related. But if it's affordable housing is your real concern, I anticipate that you'll be bringing a notice of motion to remove development charges from Brighton's particular list of obligations.
Ours have been established for a long period of time.
Doesn't matter how long they've been established, sir.
Haven't been added at all.
They're a tool in the toolkit for all municipalities, upper and lower tier, to raise funds for growth pressures. We have them, the county has them, the province has them, the feds have them. This is our tool in order to raise those funds, to make sure that a new person coming to Brighton helps afford those growth pressures in the community. A new person coming to Northumberland County helps afford those growth pressures in the county, across the county.
The county also gets a percentage of our taxes that we raise too, 38%.
So does Brighton,
Yeah. That we pay for.
right, across the county.
Yeah.
And so does Brighton. Brighton raises taxes as well.
But we don't have the cash reserve that they have.
But their cash reserves will be depleted over the next 5 years as these infrastructure projects get rolled out. You're going to see the county reserves go down quite significantly over the course of the next 5-6 years.
Okay.
Right, because they're allotted for very specific projects. And that big golden plow lodge is going to chew out some serious reserves, an $80 million bill. Further questions on these two items? Councillor Anderson?
I think it's a matter of just following their financial statements and see where it goes, but and be critical every year, not just once in a while, but maybe our new bridge will come out of this too.
Maybe.
If it's for infrastructure, right?
It would be.
Yeah.
It would be. Councillor LeBlanc? No, it's 8:30. You're early. You're early. Mr. Walsh, did you have your hand up? You're just big on my screen, that's all.
I did, Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to mention that the county billing charges bylaw increase, I think, is reflective of a built-in provision within the bylaw itself. And that is that they make the annual adjustments based on the StatsCan construction cost index. The municipality of Brighton and its development charge has the same provision, and we've made our incremental annual increase as well.
Thank you for that, which we just passed.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Anything further on these two items? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And I'll need a motion. The council supports the correspondence from Trent Lakes re OHIP eye care. So mover, Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Bateman. Any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And Madam Clerk, that brings us to question period. Are you aware of anyone joining us for question period this evening? Deputy Clerk, thank you. We have no in-camera session. So we're going to get Councillor LeBlanc home. He's all ready to go. You have a question, Councillor Rowley?
I do. I'm wondering if I didn't miss it. The dress purple letter, sorry.
We passed it. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Looking for.
It was moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council gives the bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the corporation of the municipality of Brighton council meeting held on September 20th, 2021. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And just before I read the adjournment motion, I'd like to congratulate everyone whose name is appearing on a ballot this evening in Northumberland, Peterborough South, and wish them all well, regardless of what the outcome of tonight's decision is, even if we may not even know tonight, depending on the mail-ins. But we do wish them well. We all around this horse show know what it's like to have your name on a ballot, and let the people decide whether or not you're worthy. So we wish them all well, and of course we wish the successful candidate good luck in governing, and we will be talking to them about infrastructure money very soon after the election. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. That's the September 20th, 2021 meeting. Adjourn at 8:34 p.m. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried.